Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Tonight's movie is 1941's Mr. District Attorney, directed by William Morgan. On April 17, 1941, the New York Times described this movie as the worst bad picture of the year. I disagree. Surprised? You should be. I seem to have gotten this reputation as someone who's hard to please when it comes to movies. Alongside that, I've also gotten a reputation that if I like your movie, it's a really good one. I wasn't aware of this until I watched a private preview of a recently shot film, and the director, who I knew casually at the time, walked up to me and said something to the effect of, "I really hope you like my movie. I was told that you're hard to please and can be brutally honest about how you feel." I then spent the entire run of the film having the director watching me anxiously out of the corner of his eye. It made me a little uncomfortable, to be honest, but thankfully I enjoyed his movie and told him so when it was finished. If I hadn't enjoyed it, I would have told him, of course, and if he'd asked, I would have given him a list of things I didn't like about it. Let me tell you something. That is not an easy thing to do. I mean, I know what it's like making a movie. It's brutal, agonizing, soul-sucking work, but when it's going well, it's the greatest thing on earth. And if it comes out well, wonderful. When you're watching it with an audience and they're laughing at the funny parts and gasping at the exciting parts instead of sitting there checking their watches or catcalling the screen, you know all your work hasn't been in vain. But when I get cornered by someone and they demand to know what I thought of their work and I didn't like it, well, usually the first thing I ask is if they really want to know what I think, if they want to hear the truth of what my opinion is. And it's only an opinion, one man's opinion. It's not graven in stone. If you ask my honest opinion, I will give it to you along with the reasons for them. And like I said, it's not an easy thing to do. Very often, and I've been guilty of this myself, a filmmaker is so close to the project that they're blind to its shortcomings. Sometimes you're just so sick of dealing with the project and all the attendant headaches associated with it, you just want to get the thing the hell off your hard drive and move on to something, anything else, as long as it's not that damn project. Other times, and unfortunately this happens more often than not, the project is badly conceived, written, acted, shot, and directed, but the director and everyone else in it is so convinced they're making the next Citizen Kane that they absolutely refuse to see that the most important ingredients in the mix, talent, knowledge, and a feel for the language of film, is missing and that they've made a masterpiece. Then they ask me for my honest opinion, and when I give it, they get pissed at me. I get the feeling I made a fair number of enemies due to this. Oh well, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't lie to you guys watching this intro about what we show, and I won't lie if I didn't like your project. If you don't want my opinion or think it's going to be bad, don't ask for it. I'm more than willing to keep my mouth shut. All right, now that I've wasted a page or so talking about myself to pad this intro out, let's get to the movie. Mr. District Attorney is a strange film. Not strange weird, but strange like Borderline was strange. It's part mystery, part noir, and part screwball comedy. The two main characters have what's referred to in the movie business as a meet cute, a term I despise. The woman is a reporter, although thankfully not the obnoxious, "the people have a right to know" type, and is what would be referred to at the time as a dame. And the hero is an assistant district attorney, a silver spoon type, although not a snobby one. He believes in justice, but his naivete trips him up a lot. You'll notice that Peter Lorre has third billing in this movie, which I thought was a bit odd. He was still a star at the time this film was made, but after seeing it, I understood why. He's only in the film for about 10 minutes total, and probably shot all of his scenes in one day. In keeping with the Lippert formula, Lorre is in the movie for marquee value and not much more. Anyone could have played the role. That's not to say he slacks off. Lorre was always a pro and showed the proper menace in the part. The movie concerns a new ADA who's trying to prove himself, since everyone in the DA's office believes his position is a sinecure. He believes fiercely in justice and is a little too anxious at first, and the lady reporter is a little wary of his lack of experience. It's this very lack of experience that gets him in trouble and pretty much keeps him there for most of the movie. He's got a good heart, though. There's not a whole lot to share about this film. The plot is simplistic, but the acting is pretty good for what it is. It doesn't make any demands on the viewer other than to watch the thing on spool and enjoy it. Dennis O'Keefe was born Edward Vance Flanagan on March 29, 1908 in Fort Madison, Iowa. O'Keefe had a good career, appearing in 279 movies and television series, and that's not counting his radio work. He started in show business as an infant, appearing on stage with his parents, who were billed as Flanagan and Edwards, the Rollicking Twosome. He started writing scripts while attending college and eventually broke into films after doing extra work when he appeared with Clark Gable in 1937's Saratoga. Gable liked the young actor and suggested him to MGM Brass as a lead. He was given mostly lightweight roles during his MGM tenure and went freelance when his contract ran out, appearing in 1941's Topper Returns, 1943's The Leopard Man, and 1947's crime drama T-Men, which he co-scripted. The last movie was so successful it spawned a radio show on CBS 3 years later. O'Keefe starred in that, too. Between 1944 and 1952, O'Keefe alternated between movies and radio, appearing in the 1945 version of Brewster's Millions, which I caught on TV once. It was quite good. Dennis O'Keefe died from lung cancer on August 31st, 1968 in Santa Monica, California. Florence Rice was born on February 14th, 1907 in Cleveland, Ohio. The daughter of famed sportscaster Grantland Rice, she attended grammar and boarding schools in Englewood, New Jersey, and developed an interest in acting while there. She started on stage, appearing on Broadway and then entering film in the mid-1930s. She appeared in 47 films over the course of her career, usually in light comedies. Although she's memorable in tonight's film, she never really made a big impression in her movies and retired quietly from the screen in the mid-40s, doing radio and television work. She married happily a second time and retired to Hawaii, where she died of lung cancer on February 23, 1974. Mr. District Attorney is another Lippert production, this one a bit more memorable than his others. It's the first screwball comedy I ever saw from Lippert and is an entertaining, pleasant movie, which is all it needs to be. It's followed by another episode of the unsold 1951 TV pilot Roaring City, starring Hugh Beaumont as rough-and-tumble detective Dennis O'Brien and Edward Brophy as his sidekick, Professor Frederick Simpson Schicker. Inspector Berger still mistrusts him for reasons unknown, other than the fact that regular cops always mistrust and dislike PIs. It fills the dead space on the show, which is the only reason it's there, much like this pilot is filling dead time on the show. So right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy Mr. District Attorney right here on Cleveland Classic Cinema.